Black Gemara today, Monday's Daf of Tzadi Beis. We'll then starting a new Pedic. We'll then pause and go to Tzadi Gimel. So the previous Pedic is all about Tadir and Mekudesh, which one takes precedence, priority. Now we're continuing learning the dinim of Karban Chatas. A number of dinim that the Torah talks about by Karban Chatas, and one of them is specifically only a Karban Chatas, and that is the blood that you're going to spray on the wall, on the Mizbeach. Let's say falls on the shirt of the tunic of the Kohen. He has to rinse it out. He has to mechabes it. You have to take the blood out. So the Mishnah says, on the Tzadik base, Dam chatas, the blood of a karma chatas, shenitas ala beged, that sprinkled and fell on the beged of the splattered on the beged of the kohen. Harei ton kibus. It says in the pasuk yaze medama, you have to rinse it out and take out the blood. Afa pisha ein hakosa medaben element cholos. If you look in the psukim in Pashat Tzav there, it starts off saying here in the pasuk that only that the kohen, it says here that hakohen hamachata oisa, the kohen that does the karban chatas yechleno should eat the carbon b'makom kodesh. So obviously, what kind of carbon are we talking about? A chatas on the outer mizbeach, because the chatas on the inner mizbeach, the kohen does not eat from it. So it says that kohen machad. So we're talking about the chatas on the mizbeach. So what would it then be? The chatas in the inner mizbeach, it's blood, it falls on the shirt. You have to also be mechabes it. It says even though only korbanos that the kohen eats. Shenemah, because the pasuk said b'makom kodesh teichel. You should eat in a holy place. Nevertheless, echad an nechalos ve'echad aprimis to'unas kibbutz. Doesn't matter where the chatas is made. If the blood falls on the shirt of the kohen, he needs to launder it. Remember, it says, how do I know that? But it says in the pasuk, toidas hachatas. It says, it introduces this. It says, zois toidas hachatas. Because it says toida is a general rule, so therefore incorporates, expands. So what's the next step beyond chatois chatois? Chatos aprimis. And we'll soon see in the Gemara, but we're going to exclude a bird chatas. A bird chatas blood falls on the shirt, you don't have to launder it. Because there's a meat as well as a ribi. So we decided to include the chatas primis and exclude the bird chatas.
Is it the same with other korban? It's not a chatas or not?
Other korban there's no din. Only chatas. Only a chatas. Any other korban blood falls on you, no problem. So the Gemara, all the same din. What about chatas psula? What about a chatas that was puzzle? Let's say that something happened, pig or whatever it is. Something happened. We'll soon see a few examples. That it's no longer a kosher chatas, and then some of that blood fell on the shirt of the kohen. Ain't damatun kibbutz. You don't have to then remove that, because it says in the pasuk asher yaze. In the next pasuk it says that anything asher yaze midama ala beged that. I'm just looking to tell you this so you can see the truth. And when you spray from its blood on the beged, asher yaza ale to chabesh wash. Only that which yaza, which is still suitable, yaza like future tense, which is still suitable to spray on the mizbeach, sprinkle on the mizbeach. But if it's possible, it's not suitable, so there's no din of kibbutz. Now then he says, we go for one step further. Bein shahoisel or shasa kosher, or bein shloisel shasa kosher. It doesn't matter whether it started out all right and then something happened after it became tummy the blood or something happened, or from the outset you shechted it and you had a mind piggle. So from the very outset it was already no good. It doesn't make a difference. That blood is not. You don't need kibbutz. You don't need to launder it. Now the Mishnah spells it out. What's an example of shahoisel or shasa kosher? If it had a shasa kosher, you tell me, even though it had a shasa kosher, because later tomorrow we'll see it, Kiva argues. But you're going to say, even though it had a shasa kosher, that blood does not need to be laundered. Shalona, the blood you left overnight, or ushanitma, or the blood became tummy. So it started out all right, then after it became tummy. Ushiyotzos, or it went outside of the azara. The Azi, and what's an example? Blood that was never kosher in the first place, which is the given that you don't have to launder it. When you shechted, you had a mind outside of the right time and outside of the right place. Or kiblu psulin as dama, or a person accepted the blood. And we're not talking about spraying the blood, because we're going to learn that, as Rashi points out, and Taisa agrees, that because if spraying the blood, we don't need a possible, even a kosher coin. Once you spray the blood, any blood after that you don't need kibbutz anymore. It's only asher that you're going to spray. So what? So I don't need to tell me v'zorku apostle, spray the blood and afterwards. Doesn't matter, because even a kosher, once you did your zrikas adam, we don't care what happens afterwards. So the main thing is that from the Kabbalah, from the beginning of the avodah that's meant for a kohen, it was already no good. So that dam does not need to be washed. So the Gemara, dam chatas. That's a question. You tell me that the Torah tells you that we compare all chatoyas, and I feel chatas nami. So a bird chatas also the blood shouldn't be laundered. Alamatanya, why we learn yachla? I would have thought tehei dam chatas kibbutz. I would have thought that you also need kibbutz launder the blood of a bird. Chatas zeis. It says zeis Torah. So you have Torahs is a ribui, expansive, and zeis is a miut. So we decided that zeis comes to exclude a chatas bird. Omer Shlak, don't give it. Tamlam is Omer Shlakish Mishum Bakapara. So the Shlakish explains the Bakapara. Omakra, it says in the pasuk. It says in the pasuk that you should check, and because the pasuk says Zoy Teres Chatas, he says Mekayma Oile. It says in the pasuk Zoy Mekayma to shachit Oile to shachit Chatas. So what kind of Chatas are we talking about? That requires shchita. So obviously we're not talking about a bird Chatas, because a bird Chatas requires malika. So therefore, we know it's excluded. So the Gemara, okay, you want to exclude bird. No, the ema ebazei. It says also in the pasuk that the kohen should eat it. The makam kaddish te'achel, right? It says in the pasuk te'achel, and obviously that excludes the inner chatas. But the chazon daber k'yasibim kaddish te'achel abel primis loy. So let's exclude the inner chatas as well, because you can't eat it. Just like you exclude the bird, exclude the inner chatas. No, Rabbi Rachman Toidas says Toidas. You have to include. So then include Chatazoiv, Mir Rachman Zois. So you might have the famous question, so why do you decide to include this and exclude that? So it makes sense. What's similar to a chatas chitzonis of an animal? A chatas primis. The chatas behema primis have a little buy. It makes more sense. Why? She came behema, they're both animals. Number two, they're both shchita. How do you prepare them? Through shchita. Number three, they're both tzafon. The animals on the tzafon side, and the inner animal, the inner chatas is done on the tzafon of the mizbeach. The Kabbalah is clear. They both need a keli. A bird doesn't is no tzafon, and a bird is on the bech. Plus, it's actually on the Dorim side, and plus by a bird there's no Kabbalah's kli. You take straight from the neck and you squirt out the blood, or mitzri. And here you have to have a keli. Look how many things they have in common. And furthermore, and the keren you have to put it on the corners. The etzman you have to use your finger, and the chudah has to be mamash on the tip. You're doing it on four sides, and the ishim, and then you put part of it on the fire. All of these things. You have, here you put the tire carbon on the fire, burn it outside, or here you put in the chatzkatzon, you only put in the emurim, the chalab and the emurim, but something goes on the fire. So, so look how many similarities there. Why she can't chutz kamoisa? They're both done outside. Have something in common there. And bachil kamoisa, both of them are eaten by the kohenim. The chatas bird, none of it goes on the mizbech. Okay, that's the first part. But the kohenim eat it. Well, that's a hanech efficient. Look how many similarities there are between the chatas pnimis, the chatas tzonis versus the bird only has two, and that's like 7. Rabbi Yosef gives a different reason why we include this and exclude that. Eat it. What do you mean eat it? And in other words, there's something else that you can eat, but that's not included in this din here about kibbutz. So we're not excluding chatas pnimis because nobody eats it, right? The chatas pnimis you sprinkle in zebech and then you burn the whole thing outside. So it's talking about something you eat. A bird chatas you also eat, but that's not included in the pasuk here. So Gemara says, so what do you need the meat of zeis when you have yechlena? It's written lashon yachid that you only eat this and not something else. Gemara says no, because ilav zeis have a mina yechlena urchidikra. With yechlena is urchidikra kamashlan. So I need zeis to tell me you got to exclude something. Now I have to look what to exclude. I see it says yechlena lashon yachid, so we're excluding chatas ha'if. Rabbah gives a third shot. On Makro, it says in Pasik, that you will spray from its blood. But hazois, hakosa medabe, we're talking about things that require hazois. What requires hazois? The chatas chitzonis requires spraying on the mizbech, and the chatas primi also do hazois. Plus you do it from the Bereiches, but you do hazois. Mashaying in the bird is no hazois. You press it against the wall. Well, Tanya, and we talk learned even though the pasuk itself is clearly achel, so the pasuk talking about chatas that you eat, not a chatas primis. Says Rabba le'inyan merika v'shtifa. That's talking about the din of merika v'shtifa, which is that by a korban chatas, and we'll see later by the commandments as well. We'll see that you have to every keli that you use, if it's made out of copper, you have to kasher it and then rinse it. If it's made out of klei chedesh, you have to destroy it. So that we're talking about the ones that you eat. Avoli inyan kibbutz, but that's what the puzzle is talking about. What you eat. Avoli and avoli inyan kibbutz. When it comes to laundering, ashayazik. There's not saying about eating. There's ashayazik, which is spray. And since chatzah prima you spray like chatzah ketzonis, it's included. So if you're telling me. So in fact, you're telling me that we are learning out from, in fact, like chatas doesn't do with eating. You're telling me now that eating is to do with kashing the kalim. The main thing is spraying. So the main spraying is actually where it says yaza is by the chatas primis. Those words yaza. So l'chayda, till now we thought that we're comparing chatas primis to chatas chitzonis. That if the blood falls on your shirt, you launder. Now you tell me the pasuk actually is talking about chatas primis, not chatas chitzonis, and we're learning chatas chitzonis from chatas primis. Exactly the opposite, because you're saying that only asher yaza is referring to the thing of kibbutz, and asher yaza is written by chatas primis. So l'chayda, if so what's the given is chatas primis, and the chiddush is chatas chitzonis. So the wording is wrong. So it says it whether it's a chatas that you eat, whether it's a chata and a cholos, and whether it's a chata primis, the blood is a problem. It should have said echad primis, because what's the given is always written first, and the chiddush is written second. So it should have said that the primis for sure you have to wonder about the blood, and the chiddush is echad cholos. We're also expand and include the chatas chitzoni, which is eaten. Mebayle. So what say you're right? Tani. Change it around. Echad primis ve'echad cholos. The same question we had before, just repeat it. Why don't we include also chatas ha'if as well? You're expanding it to chatas behemoths chitzonis. Go a bit further and expand it to birds. Name meat rachmanis hazois. Excludes chitzonis. Riba rachmanis toidas says toidas. Umari, same question. Mistabel, it makes more sense. Chatas behema havle. We're going to compare, but now we're doing it all the way around. We're going to compare a chatas behema chitzonius to a chatas behema pinius. She came behema, but both of them have the same thing in common. Shechit and Safan, the north side. The Kabbalah is clear. You have to receive it. The Keren in the corner. The Etzba. Finger, the chuda in the corner, and goes on the fire. Possibly on the fire. Is adrab chatas oiv havle lebuya should include that. She came hazor kamaisa by chatas oiv sprinkle. Hanoch hazor. So he says Hanoch nefishin. There's more similarities here. Boy, Rab Ovin. So now Rab Ovin asks a question. What happens? Chatas ha'oif. You have a chatas ha'oif. Shehechnis doma. You brought in the. We learned before about the chatas. So you bring the blood inside the heichal. It passes it. We had a machlekes whether you had to actually sprinkle it or you just had to have kavanah to sprinkle it. The Buddha said if it was b'shegig, you don't have to worry. So, but you brought it inside. It's possible. How did you bring it inside? In a keli. If you just walked with the animal inside, just to go back out and do whatever you have to do. It's only once it's in the clay shot, it's sanctified, and you bring it to heichel, the wrong place, it ruins it. What about, interesting question, by a chatas ha'oif, there's no keli. There's no clay shot. You take the bird and you squirt it against the mizbech. Is the pshat that the neck of the bird is the clay sharos? Because the blood comes from there. It's storing the blood now, and you're going to squirt it from there. So does that become the keli that's consecrated blood? Or there's no clay sharos at all? Mine have kamina. If you took the bird inside the heichel, if we treat the neck like a clay sharos, then it's ruined because the blood is in the clay sharos, it got ruined. But if you don't treat it like clay sharos, then you brought it in, nothing happened. So boy, that's a question. You brought it inside and ma'u. Do we say tzavada ki clay shot is dummy? Do we compare the neck of a bird like a clay shot is? Because since we don't require any other keli, what's pshat? You don't need a keli, or that is the keli, because you don't need a second keli because you don't need a substitute. You already have the neck itself; it stores there. So therefore, the neck becomes like the clay shot is. So therefore, it ruins it when you disqualifies it. Dilma kitzavar behema, or do we say no? It's like the neck of a behema, which is nothing. You brought the animal inside, you just take it right back out. It's only a clay shot. There's no clay shot here. So the Gemara, Because it says in the pasuk, mid dama, from its blood, not if you bring the blood together with the meat. Here you brought the blood, talk about an animal, you brought the animal inside, the blood together with the meat. So over here also, with the flesh, over here also, the blood together with the flesh. It's not a klei shadas. Toshma coming here, we're trying to bring it out. It says, Pirchas even nichnos lefnim. Let's say by a chatas, it jumps around, nerves make it jump, and it entered the inside. And then the chazar went right back out. Shayla, you can use it. Sounds like the only reason why you can use it is because it happened by itself. You didn't bring it in. If you actually brought the bird inside, then be psula or be puzzle. So there's the answer. If you bring it inside, it's puzzle. In other words, it's considered like a klei shadas and it's puzzle. So think about it back to him. If that's going to be a diuk, well, the time make according to you. It says by kochik kochim, what happens if you have an animal, you're supposed to shecht on the north side, the animal jumped around after you shechted it, and it ended up on the south side. And the chazi brought it in, shaded kosher. So according to your diak, but if you took the animal and after you shechted outside, in the south side of the Azora, it'd be possible. No such thing. There's no wall there, there's no mechitza between the north and south. Oh, it's a psula. No. The why do we say here this pirchasa? Because the main chiddush here is what happens if pirchasa and went outside of the azor. There's another thing there where it says if pirchasa and went outside of the azor itself, we don't care why he went out. It's possible because it left. I.e., just jumped by itself. It's still possible. So once that was a chiddush, so we continue using the example of pirchasa, even though it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if he did it by itself, whether you did it. It's no problem. So I'm here too. So we have no raya one way or another. What would it then be by a bird if the blood is inside the neck and you bring it in? Do we treat it like klei shadas or not? And we don't resolve it. And we just keep on asking questions the last few days and today with no resolution. But as we learned a long time ago, that when somebody said, "What do we ignore a paskas a halacha?" And when I was back, who needs the paskas halacha? The whole thing is hichsel meshicha. And the Abai says, "Hey, why learn Zevachim? Why learn B'chal Zevachim? And all these shilas, it's hichsel meshicha. Now, was droish v'kabel schar. So droish v'kabel schar. We're going to get a lot of schar for all this." Boy, Rabavin asked the question. Nishpach, we had before by behema. If the blood falls out from the behemoth's neck straight onto the floor, you can't collect the blood and use it because it's possible. It has to go directly into a klei shadas. But we did learn if it went into a klei shadas, it entered a vessel, and then from the vessel it fell out onto the floor. You can bring it back up, scoop it up and use it again. So the question is, same idea. From the bird, it fell directly onto the floor. Can you pick it up or not? If you treat the neck of the bird like klei shadas, yes, you can. Because it was a klei shadas and then from the floor. But if you don't treat a klei shadas, then you can't. So think about it. Boy, Rabbi asks a question. What happens if it fell on the floor? But also you gather together mouth. It's ruchi who on a klei shadas. The Torah said you don't need a klei shadas. Not that you're not allowed to. You don't need a klei shadas because the neck is a klei shadas. Is the hicho is precaution, no problem. The blood lands on the floor, scoop it up and use it again. Or the pshat is the reason why you don't have a klei shadas by a bird is not because the neck is a klei shadas. Mifsal possible Tay doesn't want, for whatever reason, Tay does not want a klei shadas by a bird. Therefore, there's no klei shadas there, and the blood landed on the ground. You can't scoop it up because it's possible. It has to go straight from the neck to the mizrech. Possible. Which one is it? Amar Rav says Rav Toshma coming here. It says Yochel. I would have thought Yedam Chatas Tone Kibos. I would have thought we had this before. Top of the page. We would have thought that the blood of Adam Chatas requires laundering as well because we expand from the word Toidas. Talmud Lema Zeis come to limit. But if you're going to tell me that Mifsal Pasal Reachmana, if you're going to tell me that. We're trying to find out why the blood landed on the shirt by a bird. Doesn't bother us. You don't have to launder it. So we bring a pasuk zeis. But if you're going to tell me that there's no klei shadas, that Torah says I don't want the klei shadas. The neck is not a klei. I don't want the klei shadas. So when this blood is landing on the shirt, before it landed on the shirt, it's in the avid of the shirt. So it's like it landed in the klei shadas. Because the clothes were kind of holy, it landed in klei shadas, and that ruins the blood. So of course you don't have to launder it because it's possible blood. What do I need a pasuk zois for? Thankfully, the ifshal about it became possible with the avlikei. You don't need to launder it without the meat of zois. What do you need zois for? As soon as it entered the rain of the region of the beged, that's it. And because we said before, sheyazet has to be suitable that you can use his blood to sprinkle on the mizbeach. That's no raya. I can maybe when you need a pasuk zayis. You're right. Generally speaking, you don't need zayis. You don't have to launder it because it hit a keli. You're not supposed to, and before it touched the beged, already the blood was disqualified because it came to the avir of the keli. But in the avir of a beged, avir keli. We're talking about a keli, but man kli b'tzabara. What about if their shirt is connected, let's say, to the neck of the bird? So there's no avir. You go straight from the bird's blood to your shirt. Do you need to launder it or not? And there we would have thought, well, the blood wasn't disqualified till it touched the shirt. Maybe it's matame the shirt. That's why we need zayis. No, the blood of a bird never is matame. No rai one way or another. But even Levi asked the question from Rebbe, Nitas beged mao. What happens? You sprayed one beged and then jump from that one beged to the next beged. Again, we didn't resolve any of these questions. How do we treat the neck of a bird? So jump from one beged to another beged. Mao. What happens now? Do we say beged kama each kibbutz? Once it ruined the first beged already, it's no longer, it goes to the next beged, you don't have to anymore worry about that, you have to launder it. And it's like it landed, from a keli to the ground and you can't use it again. What do you call it? Ideal, we say like, or we say no. From one bag to the next bag, you still need to go ahead and to launder as well. So the Gemara, good question. Good question. Toe and kibbutz, and the answer is you have to launder it. I don't care which way we resolved the previous questions. If you'll tell me that if you gather the blood from the ground is kosher, why? Because the neck of a bird is considered a clay shudders. So then, how kosher? So therefore, no problem. Even landed on one shirt, which is another keli, and then from the shirt, it's no worse than landing on the ground. You can scoop it up from the ground and then lands another bag. No, both come tummy. If you resolve this question about the neck before. The puzzle, if you can tell me, no, the neck is not a clay shutters, and you gather the puzzle, and not kiraba kibbutz, I hold like kiraba kibbutz, which argues with our Mishnah, and he holds, he says that if when you started the carbon, the blood was suitable. This blood was suitable. The problem is only it landed on shirt number one. But prior to landing on shirt number one, the blood was suitable to be used for the Mizbeach. So in that case there, even though then it goes to shirt number two, by the time it hit shirt number two, the blood was disqualified. So what? It had a shasa kosher. What are
we calling the avir of the
beged? Is like an avir keli. Beged is a keli.
Yeah.
And
so you have a keli, and the avir is the space.
No, the avir could be higher than that as well.
Yeah.
The avir, all your space. We'll soon see the more later, maybe lavdafka.